Dear Duolingo, we used to be so close, but you've changed. We used to make stories together, we used to laugh, you'd introduce me to your friends. Now your new shiny graphics are distracting. I feel I've learned nothing. I should have known you only wanted to play games. You never really listened to me. You put words in my mouth. I'm not eating bread and crying on the floor. Yet. You fill me with sadness, rage, even fear sometimes of knowing you, of knowing that I will always come back eventually. Oh geez, I'm sorry you folks had to see that. I just get so emotional. Like many of you, I have a long history with Duolingo and the faults are clear to see. But there are some redeeming factors too that just keep us coming back. Today, we're gonna explore the things that you can take away from Duolingo and apply to your own language learning so that you can finally end this relationship. One thing I really like about the interface is that the more you play, the more it starts to feel like a game. There's an incentive, a reason to return every day. They keep track of your record, of your XP. There are leaderboards and even lingots? I don't know. They pay you basically to stay on their website and you can buy things, not many things, but some things. Admittedly, this is a hard thing to recreate if you're a self-studier, if you have your own language learning plan. You're probably not gonna create this whole user-friendly interface for you to go back and click through to learn your language of choice, unless you're a psychopath. But if you're a normal person, you might have a hard time recreating this energized feeling, a reason to keep coming back, to create this kind of game for yourself, especially if you're building your own path from scratch. One of the recommendations I have for you is to keep all of your resources in one place. Start a Notion page if you like to work on the computer, or if you're working from physical books and journals, you can put it all in its own dedicated stack in its own corner of your room or workspace so it can sit there and stare at you judgmentally when you choose to neglect it. This will also hopefully help to not overwhelm yourself with so many source materials like I find myself doing. If you're a beginner, one main source of material is probably for the best, with maybe 2 supplemental things just in case the wording is ambiguous. But yeah, maximum 3 sources if you're a beginner should be probably pretty okay for you. So another thing is incentive. I have very mixed feelings about Duolingo's incentive. I've already talked about it a little bit. They give you little coins if you keep coming back, if you do a good job. I like that there's a daily tracker, there's a leaderboard so you can compare yourself to others. But I wish there was more incentive on Duolingo. You know, like, again, you have these coins, but the shop is pretty much bare. You can have a streak freeze, which basically you can pay to have them assume that you're not going to complete the streak yourself, which isn't really great. I wish there were like little inconsequential things you can spend these fake coins on, like, I don't know, give your Duolingo owl a stupid little costume or something. In the shop there used to be a little subsection where you can purchase like extra lessons, like how to flirt in this language, or honestly I don't remember the other ones. But they don't seem to do that anymore. Whatever it is, incentive is really crucial to whatever goal you're working on. And it's important to find a way to make your goals a little less intrinsic, as though someone or something was depending on your success. You know, like if you were maybe to say to yourself, okay, I'm gonna give myself a trip to Italy when I pass this test or reach this level in Italian. It's a hard thing to mimic for yourself on a small scale. I mean, you can buy yourself a trip to Italy if you want to, but in the world of fake coins, it's hard to mimic for yourself when you're tackling such a huge goal with such an arduous process such as language learning, because it takes so long and it's such a deep thing, and frankly, like, there's gonna be a point where your interest will wane. I'm sorry, it happens to everyone. It's not you, it's you. But the thing is, it's harder to disappoint someone than it is to disappoint yourself. So I would recommend finding like a language partner or maybe a tutor. You know, italki is a pretty good resource for that. If you come every week, you assign yourself homework and that person is depending on you to complete those goals so that you can talk about it with them so that time is not wasted, you're more likely to do it. Now, I've already talked about in this video some tips on finding resources that are mostly free mostly free. I won't be talking about that too much today, but if you're interested, another app that I really enjoyed in the past is called Study Bunny, and this is not sponsored or anything, I just enjoyed using it. Basically what you do is you turn on a timer while you study or read or do whatever goal you want to complete, and based on the amount of time you spend on that goal, the amount of times you click out of the app, they'll give you fake little coins where you can go to the store and dress up your bunny. I'm sure you're seeing a recurring theme here. It's stupid and I love it. It also tracks your progress, which is nice. You can see over the month or the year, or I think even the week. One thing about Study Bunny I dislike is that I always forget to turn my timer on or off, which means that it is super inaccurate to the amount of time that I've spent with whatever thing I'm doing at that moment. So I don't know, it's a habit you have to get yourself into. I was not successful at it. I should try that again though. I might get back into that. Going back to Duolingo, there used to be this really cool feature, at least with French and Spanish, I believe, where it was like stories or like fairy tales maybe. Duolingo would have you follow this little story thing and eventually it would bring you to this line that was blank, or it was mostly filled in except for like a word or two. You'd either have to click from a few options to fill it in, or maybe it would ask you the spelling, or maybe the conjugation. I really loved that, and it was a really cool way to engage with the language while also checking for comprehension. To be honest, I think it would be very difficult to go through and do that on your own, in your own studying. I could recommend Mad Libs, but that's not really what I'm talking about here. The best I can do with that one is to interact with the media from that language as early on in your language learning as you possibly can. It's never too soon. Because really, grammar only takes you so far when you can't express yourself or you can't understand the expression of others, right? Speaking of grammar is important, but it's not everything. It should be the groundwork for your learning, but not like the backbone. And I think Duolingo understands this, and I appreciate that. Because honestly, Duolingo has a terrible grammar section. I think in the past there was like a little page where you can click in and learn the grammar that is needed for that lesson or that section or whatever it was. I don't think they do that anymore. I think you have to pay for it, which is not worth it, because from what I remember, it was very vague, and they would list all of the exceptions to the rule, so it felt like the rule was inconsequential to begin with, which it's not. It was just overwhelming the way that they presented the information, and I didn't like it. So my best recommendation is to find a resource that has grammar, but it also has little stories you can read that connect with that grammar, or poems, or like cultural tidbits that can strengthen your knowledge of the application of that grammar rule, like in the real living language, you know what I mean? Like grammar books are great. You can memorize as much as you want, but you have to connect that then to the actual language itself. And I always say this, but as a beginner, you need to supplement your knowledge with application, and as an advanced intermediate learner, you need to supplement your application with knowledge. And basically what that means is that the most grammar you should encounter is at the very beginning of your journey, because you need to know the proper sentence structure, the proper cases, whatever. You need to be understood. But once you kind of get a good grasp of that in the, in conversation, in application, how many times do you really need to revisit a grammar book? Really, you should be interacting with the language as it is, with the speaker, with film, with whatever you're into. And Duolingo definitely doesn't do that. Okay, for my last thing, one of my major gripes with Duolingo is that you can't really start from anything other than square one. If you didn't start your language learning journey with Duolingo, then... Because the way that Duolingo assesses your previously understood knowledge is really it's just so very not good. Basically, you have to go through completing sentences, picking proper spelling, proper pronunciation, proper conjugations, and that goes on for 20 plus exercises, and you have no help to do that. And that's not what irks me. What irks me is that when they give you a sentence such as, I bought her the purple bag for her birthday, that's a pretty complex sentence. It has a subject, a direct object, and an indirect object, and that's great if you know all of those things, if you know how to use all those things. But if you don't know the word purple, then you fail the whole thing. So basically, Duolingo is comparing you to its own curriculum when you haven't interacted yet with its own curriculum. I like that Duolingo builds on itself. I mean, that's how learning should be, right? You start to work with and form these sentences in your brain, you can manipulate the language a little bit, but it should build on a vocabulary that is proportionate to its usage volume, right? For example, in Duolingo, you will probably come across the words for bread and rice sooner than you'll come across the words for friend and family. And when you think about what an actual conversation sounds like, which category of these words are you more likely to use in a sentence? Food or friend, family? You know what I mean? But that's also following a sort of method that public schools use, which I won't go into, but I explore it a lot in this video. Go check it out if you're interested. Overall, I think Duolingo is a half-decent supplement to language learning, but it shouldn't be the main source. There are a lot of benefits to it, but there are also a lot of drawbacks. I'm not convinced that it is the best use of your time and energy, but it does start to feel like a break from the arduous grammar exercises or the, whatever. It brings some life into it. It does feel like a game, and I so appreciate that. I just wish there were better games. All in all, I think you can build a better path for yourself. It's great to get the ball rolling a little bit, get yourself thinking in that language, testing yourself on things you see in your house every day. But I think there are better ways to do that. That's all I mean. Well, this has been so much fun. I hope you're having a wonderful day and that you have a wonderful breakfast tomorrow and or today if you have not gotten out of bed yet. Yeah. Sincerely, SoulButter. Yes. Love you, bye.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.